She sat still, her presence quiet but undeniable. A simple white hijab rested on her head. Her face was soft, her posture calm. She looked like any 10-year-old girl, until she spoke. Across from her sat Cristiano Ronaldo. Known in every country. Loved on every continent. But today, for the first time, he wasn't the one asking the questions. "You've won the world, Ronaldo," she began, her voice calm and steady. "But what if you've been running in the wrong direction your whole life?" The sentence didn't explode in volume. It pierced through silence. He looked at her, more out of curiosity than offense. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he gave a half-smile, one that masked 100 interviews worth of confidence. "I've spent my life chasing greatness. Trophies. Records. Success. That's not the wrong direction, is it?" "That depends," she replied gently. "Depends on where the finish line actually is." He raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying all of this, everything I've done, means nothing?" "No," she shook her head. "It means something in this life. But have you thought about what it means after this life ends?" The hall seemed quieter than before. He leaned forward slightly. "What do you mean, after?" "I've tried to live well. I've helped people. Given back. That counts for something, right?" "It does," she said with warmth. "Kindness always counts. But direction matters too. Even a generous heart can walk away from its creator if it doesn't know where to turn." He paused. Her words weren't harsh. They weren't accusatory. But they struck something raw. When the final match is over, when your name fades from jerseys, when the fans move on to someone younger, what will remain? He exhaled, slowly. Maybe memories. My story. My legacy. And the one who gave you everything you needed to build that legacy. Have you ever spoken to him? He looked at her, truly looked. Not like a fan or a child, but like someone he couldn't quite understand. "I believe in doing good. In respecting people. I believe in love. Belief in good is a start. But what about the one who defines what good even is?" Ronaldo's eyes lowered. His fingers tapped against his knee without rhythm. "I wasn't born into Islam," he said finally. "This path wasn't mine." She nodded. "That's not your fault. But now that the truth has come to you, what you choose next, that will be yours." He looked up. "What truth?" "The truth that you were made. You weren't random. You weren't lucky. You were designed. Strength, focus, talent, none of it just appeared. It was given. And it can be taken." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't tremble. But it filled the space like a whisper that couldn't be ignored. "I've helped children. Visited hospitals. Donated millions. What more should I do?" She looked him in the eyes. "Who are you doing it for?" That question settled into the air like mist. If it's for Allah, it's worship. If it's for the world, it fades with the world. He blinked. The line between his public image and his private thoughts blurred for a moment. "You talk like someone twice your age." "I talk like someone who knows what silence sounds like after prayer. You've heard the crowd scream your name. I've heard my soul whisper mine to God." He sat up straighter, his expression shifting. "Prayer gives you that kind of peace?" "It gives me clarity. Peace. Truth. It takes everything heavy from my chest and lays it at the feet of the one who can carry it." He nodded slowly. "I bowed many times. After goals. After wins. But never to your creator," she said softly. His silence answered her. She continued, "Sujud isn't weakness. It's surrender. And in surrender there is strength. You can lift all the weights in the world, but you'll never feel as strong as the moment you place your forehead on the ground for Allah." For a second he smiled again, but this time it wasn't guarded. It was tired. Honest. "Sometimes I wonder what all of it's for." The applause. The contracts. The pressure. I go home, and it's quiet. But I don't always feel peace. She didn't react with surprise. She had expected this. Because peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from connection. And the strongest connection is to the one who never leaves you. Not after a bad match. Not after a mistake. Not even after years of ignoring him. He ran a hand through his hair. His voice was low now. And if someone wanted to change their direction? You begin with a question, she said gently. What question? She didn't blink. Ask your heart, not your audience, not your coach, not even your family. Just your heart. Who made me? And why? He closed his eyes. That silence was louder than applause. And for the first time, the man who made stadiums roar had nothing left to say. That night something shifted. For the rest of the debate, Ronaldo didn't interrupt. He didn't smirk or deflect. He simply listened. Not like an athlete. Not like a superstar. But like a man who hadn't heard silence in years. He looked around at the faces watching him. So many strangers. Yet, in this moment, he felt more exposed than ever before. Not because of judgment, but because of the question echoing inside his chest. Who made me, and why? The voice inside him was quieter than a whisper. But it wouldn't go away. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low. I've played over 1,000 matches. I've seen stadiums roar my name. But when I walk into my home, there's a silence that feels heavier than noise. Noor didn't respond. She just watched him with eyes that didn't pity, didn't preach. They only listened. I try to fill it. With training. With goals. With family. But it always comes back. She waited a moment, then asked softly, Do you know why it comes back? He hesitated. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired. No, she said gently. You're not tired of the game. You're tired of running without a destination. You're tired of applause that fades. You're tired of being surrounded and still feeling alone. He looked at her, eyes narrowing just slightly. Not in anger. In realization. She continued, Because the soul was never meant to be fed by fame. It was meant to be fed by faith. The words didn't hit hard. They wrapped around him slowly, like truth often does. I've always believed, he said, in being good, in helping others. That's enough for God, right? She smiled, soft and warm. But have you ever spoken to him? Not for a goal. Not for protection. Just because you miss him? He paused. That question didn't fit inside his world of trophies and interviews. I don't know how. That's the most honest beginning, she said. Admitting you don't know. And then, you learn. He looked down at his hands. They had lifted golden trophies. Carried championship flags. But right now, they trembled slightly, resting on his knees. You think someone like me, someone with so much noise in his life, can find God? She answered instantly. Noise has never stopped God from hearing a whisper. For a second, his eyes glistened. Not tears, not yet, but the shine of someone standing at the edge of a truth too big to deny. You have millions watching you, she said. People who would copy anything you do. But only you can choose who you're following. He inhaled deeply, like a man walking into unknown air. Why are you so calm? He asked. Why don't you seem nervous talking to me? To all these people? She chuckled softly. Because I'm not talking to Cristiano Ronaldo, the world star. I'm talking to a man who's searching, even if he doesn't say it out loud. He didn't deny it. In this world, she continued, everyone wants to be seen. To be known. But the truth is, we are most known by the one we can't see. She leaned back slightly, letting her words sink. I've spent years being seen, he said slowly. But I don't know if I've ever truly been understood. That's because people see your face, your goals, your style. But Allah sees your heart. And He never misunderstands it. He looked away for a second. A deep breath passed through him like wind through a window cracked open for the first time. Sometimes I envy people like you, he said. Like me? People who don't need the world to clap for them to feel alive. She smiled again. You don't need the world either. You just think you do. Because it's what you've always known. But if I let go of it, he trailed off. Who am I without the game? Without the fans? She was silent for a few seconds before answering. You're who you were before the world named you, just a soul, made by Allah, searching for its way back. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. My son, sometimes I watch him sleep. And I wonder what kind of world I'm preparing him for. Then prepare his heart, she said softly. Because the world will try to own him. But if he knows Allah, nothing can chain him. Ronaldo closed his eyes. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. Like something sacred had just passed between them. When he opened his eyes, they looked softer. Like the noise had been turned down just a little inside him. People don't ask me questions like this, he said. Maybe because they're too afraid you'll actually answer. He laughed quietly. And you? Are you not afraid? I'm afraid of one thing, she replied. That people will spend their entire lives being praised, only to meet the one who never knew them. He didn't speak for a while after that. The moment held them both. No camera flashes. No screaming crowds. Just one heart speaking to another. And a whisper still there, still beating. Who made me, and why? The hall was quiet, but inside Cristiano, a storm was slowly shifting. The applause he'd known all his life felt distant now. It was like realizing you'd been walking under bright lights for years, and only now, someone had shown you the stars. Noor sat calmly across from him, hands still in her lap. She had no microphone, no loud tone, no fame. Yet she had done something no crowd ever could. She'd made Ronaldo stop and feel his own silence. He looked at her, eyes searching for something, maybe an anchor. You talk about sujud, like it's a place. Not a position. It is, she answered softly. It's the place where the soul finally stops running. He tilted his head. Running from what? From itself. From pain. From ego. From the weight of pretending. He stayed silent. Her words peeled something open inside him. Sujud isn't a posture, she continued. It's a surrender. When your forehead touches the ground, you're not lowering yourself. You're rising to the highest truth, that you are nothing without the one who made you. He looked away for a second, then back. How does that feel? Like home, she said. He blinked slowly. You say that like it's the most obvious thing in the world. It is, she smiled gently. But only for those who've tasted it. He crossed his arms, almost protectively. And what if I've never tasted it? What if I don't even know what I'm missing? That's the hardest part, she said. Not knowing how lost you are, until someone gives you a map. He leaned forward slightly. And what is this map? The Qur'an, she said. It doesn't just guide. It speaks. And when the heart is ready to listen, even one verse can shake everything inside you. He thought for a moment. Have you ever been scared that maybe all of this, God, religion, belief, is just tradition? She shook her head. No. Because traditions don't change hearts. But Islam changed mine. It didn't just tell me what to do, it showed me who I really am. Who are you? He asked quietly. A slave, she replied. Not to people. Not to the world. But to the one who created me. And in that slavery, I found the freedom this world never gave. He sat with that sentence for a while. Freedom through submission. It sounded backward, but felt strangely right. I've always had control, he said. My body. My schedule. My life. And has that control ever brought you peace? He looked down. No. Only pressure. There's a reason, she said, why the heart doesn't find peace and power. Because it wasn't made to lead, it was made to follow something greater. Like what? Like truth, she said. Like purpose. Like Allah. He stared into space for a few seconds, then asked something that sounded more like a whisper to himself than a real question. Why would he care about someone like me? Because he made you, she replied instantly. And the Creator never abandons his creation, only the creation forgets the Creator. A brief silence. Then he asked, if I kneeled in sujud tonight, not for the cameras, not for the world, but just to try, would he hear me? He already does, she said. Even before your forehead touches the ground. He nodded slowly, almost afraid of what the answer meant. And if I feel nothing? You will, she said gently. Not at once. But something will crack. A wall you didn't know existed. And that's the beginning. He smiled faintly. You talk like someone who's been through darkness. She looked down for a moment. I have. My father died when I was 6. I used to cry in bed at night and ask Allah, why me? I wanted to scream. But my mother taught me something. She said, even the Prophet cried in sujud. Even the best of us broke sometimes. But he always turned back to Allah. Ronaldo didn't say anything. He didn't need to. My sujud, she said, is where I left my grief, my anger, my fear. And in return, Allah gave me peace. He cleared his throat. And what if I'm not ready for that? You don't have to be ready, she replied. You just have to be honest. Allah doesn't want perfect people. He wants real ones. He looked her in the eye. I'm not sure I know how to be real anymore. Then start with that, she said. Say it. In the dark. In your own language. I don't know how to find you, Allah, but I want to. That's enough. He leaned back in his chair. For the first time, his posture wasn't controlled. It was open. Vulnerable. I thought winning would make me feel whole, he said. But it's like every trophy I lift leaves my hands emptier. She nodded slowly. Because you weren't made to be worshipped. You were made to worship. He closed his eyes. And for the briefest moment, the world's most recognized face looked like a man finally breathing. No applause. No spotlight. Just sujud, waiting for him. The hall was still. Ronaldo sat with his eyes closed, as if he were somewhere far away. Not on a stage. Not in front of cameras. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere more honest. He opened his eyes slowly. Why does it feel like I've been living loud, but hearing nothing? Noor didn't speak for a few seconds. Then she said softly, because sometimes noise is just a distraction from truth. And the world has given you more noise than most humans could bear. He leaned forward. And what if I told you that sometimes I wish I could walk away from all of it? She looked him in the eyes. Then what's stopping you? He looked away. She continued, her voice gentle but firm. Is it the fans? The money? The pride? Or is it fear? He didn't answer. We fear losing what the world gave us, she said. But we forget that the one who gave it to us can give us so much more. I've built this life, he said. From nothing. From dirt fields to golden stadiums. And now, to let go of that. You're not letting go, she said. You're lifting something heavier. You're lifting your soul. He rubbed his hands together. And if I fall? Then fall to the one who catches even before you hit the ground. There was no poetry in his eyes now, just conflict. A man standing at the edge of something vast. I've seen Muslims pray. I've seen their peace. But I've also seen their struggles. Their pain. Islam doesn't promise you no struggle, she replied. It promises that your struggle will mean something. He breathed deeply. What if I'm not enough? He asked. You never will be, she said without hesitation. That's the point. We don't worship God because we're perfect. We worship Him because He is. He looked at her like she had just said what his heart couldn't form into words. You said something before, he whispered. You weren't made to be worshipped. You were made to worship. That sentence hasn't left my mind. She didn't respond. She let it echo. Do you think, he paused, if I became Muslim, people would hate me? Maybe, she said honestly. Some would. Some might never understand. But Allah would love you. And that love, it drowns everything else. But why me? He said. Why now? Why this moment? She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Because Allah doesn't call the right people. He calls the ready ones. And right now your heart, it's listening. His lips trembled slightly. Then tell me, he said, why haven't I already accepted it? If it's so clear? Her eyes softened. Because your ego is still louder than your soul. That hurt. And it was meant to. But it was spoken with love. He didn't respond. The silence said everything. I'm not here to convert you, she said. I'm not here to debate you. I'm just a little girl reminding a grown man that the time to return home is not promised tomorrow. He looked down at the floor. She added, every breath you take is proof. Proof that God hasn't given up on you. But will you wait until your breath is the last one to remember Him? He looked up slowly. The man the world saw as invincible looked vulnerable. I don't know how to live without applause, he admitted. You were never meant to, she said. But you were always meant to live for the one whose applause never fades. He covered his face with one hand, like someone hiding from his own thoughts. I've been told so many things about Islam, he whispered. Terror. Oppression. Darkness. She leaned forward now, no longer soft, now urgent. Don't let lies define your path to truth. If you really want to know what Islam is, open the Qur'an. Don't listen to the world. Listen to the word. And if it breaks me? He asked. Then let it, she said. Because sometimes the only way Allah can enter is by breaking the part of us that thought we never needed Him. He leaned back, eyes glassy. The question still lingered. Why haven't I already accepted it? He already knew the answer. Because ego dies hard. But truth lives forever. There was a silence now that felt heavier than before. Not awkward. Not forced. Just real. Cristiano stared down at his hands. They'd held golden trophies. Carried entire teams. But now they simply rested, motionless, as if waiting for a truth to settle between his fingers. Noor spoke softly, but her words were sharp. You said you're afraid of walking away from the world you've built. But what about the world you're walking into? He looked up slowly, unsure. What do you mean? I mean, she paused. Have you ever imagined your final day? Not on the field. But in this world. He swallowed. Something in his chest shifted. When the cameras turn off, she continued, when the crowd forgets, when your body lies still, what will you say when your soul stands before the one who gave it to you? The words were like a mirror. Not of his face, but of his fate. He tried to answer, but nothing came. She leaned forward slightly. Allah doesn't ask how many trophies you won. He asks if you were grateful for the strength He gave. He doesn't ask how many records you broke. He asks if you ever broke your pride for Him. The words weren't meant to hurt. They were meant to heal. He spoke finally, low and uncertain. What if I don't know what to say to him? Then say the truth, she replied. That you forgot. That you chased the world and ignored your soul. That you wasted gifts and neglected the giver. Say it with tears, and he will still forgive you. His voice broke slightly. But what if it's too late? It's not, she said firmly. The very fact that you're here, talking, breathing, thinking, that's Allah giving you another chance. He closed his eyes. What if I fail? He asked. What if I try to change, and I still fall? Her reply was instant. Then fall, but fall in sujud. Because every fall that brings you closer to Allah is better than every rise that takes you away from Him. He let out a quiet breath, like someone who'd been holding it in for years. You're not afraid of Islam, she said softly. You're afraid of losing a version of yourself the world built, not knowing that Allah wants to give you a version even better. He nodded barely. But the people, what they'll say? She cut in. Let them talk. They always will. They spoke about the prophets, about the righteous, about those who changed. But Allah, He listens, and He rewards. He looked at her. And what do I tell Him when I die? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Tell Him you tried. Tell Him you came back. Tell Him you finally remembered who you were. Tears sat at the edge of his eyes now, unfallen. She didn't cry. But her voice cracked just slightly. If I were to die tonight, I don't fear what the people would say. I fear what I would say when Allah asks me, I gave you my words, did you live by them? He wiped his face with the back of his hand, almost surprised by the emotion. I've never cried in front of anyone like this. And I've never spoken to anyone like this, she replied. But maybe this moment isn't yours or mine. Maybe it's Allah's. He stared at her, stunned by the simplicity of what she said. Do you think He's still waiting for me? He asked. She smiled. He's not just waiting. He's calling. The question is, are you ready to answer? He looked down again. The thought of facing Allah, not the media, not fans, not critics, it made everything else feel so small. You've lived your whole life preparing for 90-minute matches, she said. But are you ready for the one moment that will decide your eternity? His throat tightened. If I told you I want to believe, but I'm scared, he said, what would you say? She didn't hesitate. I'd say be scared. But move anyway. Because paradise is not for the fearless. It's for the faithful. And in that moment, he wasn't Ronaldo the legend. He wasn't the record breaker. He was just a man, standing at the door of truth. And all he had to do was open it. He sat quietly. Not like a man who had run out of words, more like someone who had finally started hearing his own thoughts. Nor didn't press. She waited, giving space to the storm inside him. A storm that wasn't loud, but one that stripped away everything he thought he was. I don't even recognize myself right now, he finally said. That's good, she replied gently. Sometimes you have to forget who the world made you, to remember who Allah created you to be. He looked up at her. I've always been in control. On the field. In the gym. Even in interviews. But right now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something I can't control. That edge, she said, is the beginning of surrender. And surrender is the beginning of faith. He shifted in his seat, eyes heavy. You make it sound so easy. It's not, she said. But it's real. And real is always harder than fake. He nodded slowly. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I don't know whether I'm the man people love, or the one I fear I actually am. She leaned forward. You're the one Allah sees. And He sees all of you, the proud, the broken, the confused, the hopeful. And He still invites you. Every single day. He looked down at the floor, as if searching for clarity in the dust. I've read quotes. watched Muslim players pray, seen fans hold banners that say Allahu Akbar. But I never asked why. Maybe I didn't want to know. Because if you knew, she said, then you'd have to face the truth. And once the truth reaches your heart, you can't unknow it. He closed his eyes. Then maybe. I'm afraid of the truth. She paused before replying. Or maybe, you're just afraid of how much you need it. That sentence broke something. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His hands trembled just slightly. She looked at him, not with pressure, not with force, just calm waiting. Cristiano, she said softly, what's keeping you from saying it? He didn't respond. She continued, what's holding you back from saying the words that will finally make everything you've ever felt make sense? His lips parted. You mean the Shahada? She nodded. The declaration. That there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. He repeated the words silently, in his heart. His mouth didn't move, but his soul did. I don't know if I'm ready, he said. I still have questions. Still have fears. You can have questions, she said. You can even have fear. What you can't have is tomorrow guaranteed. The words hit hard. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. He looked around the hall. No one moved. No one breathed. Everyone was waiting. But Noor wasn't rushing. You don't have to be perfect, she said. You just have to be sincere. He looked at her with something between pain and peace. And if I say it, what changes? Everything, she replied. Not all at once. But everything begins to shift. Your sins become wiped clean. Your soul starts healing. And Allah, He becomes your anchor, your friend, your protector. Tears welled in his eyes. I've lived a long time without Him. Why would He take me now? She smiled. Because He's not like the world. He doesn't say, where were you? He says, welcome home. He turned his face away, hiding his emotions. His shoulders shook slightly. Noor didn't speak. She waited. And then he whispered, so soft it was barely audible. I want to say it. She nodded, eyes full of light. Then say it. He hesitated. I believe there's only one God. And Muhammad is his messenger. It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect Arabic. But it was pure. Noor closed her eyes, tears falling silently. Not because she converted someone, but because a soul had returned to its source. The hall remained still. Not out of shock, out of awe. A legend had bowed. And not to the world. To the one who made it. For a moment, it felt like the world had stopped spinning. He sat there still as stone. No lights flashed. No music played. No trophy was lifted. And yet, he had just made the most important declaration of his life. There is no God but Allah. And Muhammad is his messenger. Cristiano Ronaldo, the global icon, had just bowed, not with his body, but with his heart. Noor didn't clap. She didn't smile widely. She simply lowered her gaze, whispering, Alhamdulillah. Ronaldo wiped his face. The tears had surprised him. They weren't like the ones he'd shed after winning finals. These weren't about triumph. These were about truth. Why do I feel like I'm breathing for the first time? He asked, almost to himself. Because your soul has finally exhaled, Noor replied. He looked at her, eyes still red. And now? She didn't hesitate. Now you begin. He nodded slowly. I've never felt lighter. But I know what's coming. What? She asked. The world. The press. The sponsors. The headlines. You feared losing them, she said. But now you've found something they can't give. Still, he sighed. They'll talk. They'll twist. Some will call it a phase. Others will say it's for attention. Let them, she replied. They spoke about every prophet, every believer. And still, they stood firm. He chuckled quietly. It's strange. I've faced the most hostile stadiums in the world. But this feels bigger. That's because this is the real game, she said. And the stakes are eternal. He paused, then looked at her seriously. Should I change my name? She smiled softly. You've already changed your direction. Whether the world calls you Ronaldo or Abdullah, Allah knows who you are. He smiled for the first time since taking the Shahada. Then I'll keep my name, he said. But I'll wear it differently now. She nodded. Wear it for the one who gave you life, not for those who gave you likes. The next day, the world did what it always does, it roared. News outlets across continents ran breaking headlines. Cristiano Ronaldo converts to Islam. Some praised. Some mocked. Some questioned his sincerity. Some celebrated it like a victory. But Ronaldo, now grounded in something unshakable, didn't respond. He didn't need to. A video clip went viral. Not the moment he said the Shahada, but what he said afterward, sitting alone in a quiet room, hands on his lap. For years I lived for cheers. Today I live for peace. Some of his endorsements dropped him. A few brands froze contracts. But millions of hearts opened. Muslim children in remote villages smiled. Reverts felt seen. And Noor sat quietly at home, holding a tasbih in her hand, whispering Daik for her brother in faith. That night, Ronaldo prayed Isha for the first time. His pronunciation wasn't perfect. He stumbled on Surah Al-Fatiha. But when he bowed, it was real. When his forehead touched the ground, a tear slid down his cheek. Not of regret. Not of pain. Of reunion. It wasn't the grass of a football field. It was the prayer mat of his Lord. And it felt more like home than any stadium ever had. It had been 6 months since that night. The headlines faded. The media moved on. But for Cristiano Ronaldo, nothing had gone back to normal. Because faith doesn't let you return to who you were, it reshapes who you become. The roar of the crowd still followed him in stadiums. But it no longer defined him. He still scored goals, raised his hands, thanked the fans. But when he placed his hand over his heart, he meant something else now. One night, after a match, he sat alone in the locker room. His teammates were celebrating, music blaring from their phones. But he stayed quiet, staring at the ground, sweat still drying on his skin. His phone buzzed. A message from a number he hadn't seen since that day. May I ask you one more question? Noor. He smiled. He replied. Always. They met again, not in a debate hall, not on a stage, but in a garden behind a masjid. Quiet. Humble. A place where fame was irrelevant. She walked up slowly. A little taller now. Maybe a little older. But still carrying that same calm light in her eyes. He stood to greet her, then sat down across from her on the bench. They spoke for a while, about prayer, about the Arabic he was learning, about his son asking how to do wudu. But then she paused. I want to ask you one last thing, she said. He nodded. If today was your last match, your last breath, what would you show Allah? The question didn't hurt. It healed. He didn't speak immediately. He just looked around, at the trees, at the birds, at the sunlight filtering through the leaves. Finally, he looked back at her. I would show him a heart that finally came home. She smiled. That's all he ever wanted. There were no cameras. No reporters. No hashtags. Just a man and a girl, sitting under the sky, talking about the one who made it. And when they prayed Maghrib side by side, her behind the women's curtain, him in the men's row, he bowed not as a footballer, not as a legend, not as a global icon. but as a servant. A believer. A Muslim. That night, before sleeping, he wrote in a private notebook, a place no one would ever see. O Allah! I lived for the world once. But now I run only toward you. Let my final match be my best. And let it end in sujud. And in that quiet corner of the earth, a heart once lost, was never lost again.